All right, all right, all right. What's going on, everybody? My name is Ian Robinson, and I am a Master ZBrush trainer here at Maxon. So we make learning ZBrush as fun and as simple as possible. So thank you all for being here. I'm really excited for today's stream because for the last couple weeks, we've actually been building this chibi Deadpool character, and now it's going to be time to pose him. So I figured over the last couple weeks, we went from block out stage and then just building up the whole scene. And so now we're going to pose him. And then we're going to also prep him for 3D print. I did mention earlier, last week, I think, that I actually wanted to prep him for some animation, and I want to do that as well. So eventually we will be moving into Substance Painter and texturing him and stuff like that. So I'll probably do a little bit of prep behind the scenes for that and explain what I did. But today I want to get to posing because we want to make him an actual 3D print to hold one of these guys, little pins. So this is what's going to happen. What's going on, Travis? Welcome in, welcome in. Yo, yo, yo. So let's get into it. It's going to be fun. Usually my streams go for about 3 hours. But today there's a lot of stuff going on because unfortunately next week I won't be able to stream because I'll be in Las Vegas at NAB. So if you're not aware, NAB is a broadcasting trade show held in Vegas once a year, and Maxon has big presence there because of course we have Cinema 4D, which is a huge motion graphics tool set, as well as Red Giant, and which is also for like VFX and color correction and so forth. So there's a lot of it's a really big trade show, actually. And so we're also having ZBrush there, and we're also doing some fun 3D printing there. So if you are at NAB, stop by, say hi, and then we'll also do some fun stuff together. What's going on, Anna? Hello, hello. All right, so first things first, let's turn on a little bit of music, because you know I love my music. So we're going to go, boop, turn that on. It's always just on in the background. Hopefully you can hear it, but I need some tunes. And let's get into this. So, all right. So this is where we're at currently. So let's just turn on our coffee cup. So this is what we got. Let's pull up the concept too so you guys can see what the concept is about. Let's go to import, and there is the reference, which was drawn by an amazing friend of mine. So have to honor this right now. Boom. So now we get to do this. Now, of course, what's fun is we need to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, as I say. We need to take a look at the concept, take a look at what we've built, and then make things kind of fit a little bit more than what we currently have it. So let's go to our samples, turn off spotlight projection, and now we're going to come in here and basically try to match this up as much as possible. And this is going to be quite interesting. So the cup needs to be a little bit smaller, I think, just based on the concept. Let's see, if we were to, yeah, I think the cup needs to be just a little bit smaller in comparison to him, which is totally fine. So we're going to grab this guy right here. Let's go ahead and select everything. And we're just going to size this down a little bit. And we'll just adjust as needed. And of course, too, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to do so. But, all right. All right, let's get into the posing element. So first thing, we're going to go to Save As. And you can see we have our entire block out here. I'm going to create a new folder and call this block out. Move this right here. Oops, so we'll call this block out. So there we go. So I'm a big fan of naming. Actually, I'll call this DP blockout. Blockout. Boop. And then we'll do another folder, and we'll call this DP pose. Pose 3D print. I like to name my folders basically something that makes the most sense. So we'll move in all the blockout ones here. So this way I can always go back to it. And then we're going to open up this one, and then we're going to call this DP Chibi Pose _001. So this way we keep organized. Organization is key, and trust me, your clients will appreciate it. So, okay, now that we have this, basically, let's just move straight into posing. And what we first need to do is, for me, it's identifying the stuff that I need to take with me into the pose, not the other way around. What's my PC configuration? Great question. So I have a few PCs. The one I'm currently on is a bit of a beast. So I have a 3rd gen Threadripper. I have a 3090 GPU with 128 gigs of RAM, and yeah, I got a 1 terabyte SSD with a 4 terabyte SSD backup. So that's on this one. Yeah, that's this one. But because ZBrush is fully CPU based, my personal machine is not as beastly, and I stream on that quite often, and I also do equal amount of quality of work. And my PC at home is actually a Ryzen 5 CPU with 48 gigs of RAM and a terabyte SSD and a 2080 Super graphics card, RTX Super. So, and it works equally as well. So this is what I love about ZBrush. You have a wide range of different specs you can operate on. All right, so let's come over here. So let's identify the things that we want to take with us or that we need to take with us. And the first thing that we definitely want to take with us is, of course, his body and such. But like the swords, for example, we don't really need the swords to take with us in the pose. And I would even say the belt bags themselves, we're not going to need that as much either. We don't want to be bringing over too much into the pose itself, because we can manually bring those bags and those swords back exactly where we want them to be. But if you try to pose everything at once, what ends up happening is you end up kind of just like fighting geometry unnecessarily. So we're only going to work with the stuff that absolutely matters. And even still, like his boots, I would say that his boots maybe even cannot be brought with us, because I don't need to deform any of that yet. I can just bring the main shape and stuff. So we're going to say that we're just going to hide those elements there, and we're just going to focus on everything else that is here in this scene. And we're going to come up to Z plugin, go to Transpose Master, and let's click that on over. Love from India. Thank you, thank you, thank you. i9 14 Gen is best. Intel is actually really good. Intel's really good. If you want to know specs that work well with ZBrush, here, let me go over here to, let me drop a link for you to follow. This way, this is a little bit easier for you. You can see the requirements and what we recommend. This will be much helpful, but that should work. Leonard, what's up, buddy? Hello, hello. All right, so now we got this. Yes, that's super low res, which is beautiful. And you know what we're gonna do? We're actually gonna put on a different material, because I downloaded a fun material not too long ago. Let me go, I have to search for it now, of course, so hold on one second. But I think you guys will like this. I like this material a lot. I just found it very recently, so let's see. Let's see if I could find it real fast. Oh, of course I can't find it. Hold on. ZBrush materials. Oh, wait, there it is. Yes, there we go. Great. I really like this material. I actually just found it real quick, which was, here, I'll show it to you. Show you guys. This is a fun material. I'll shout out this guy right here. I'm probably going to butcher his name, so I apologize ahead of time, but Bruno Camara. If you look up Bruno Macara, or Camara, jeez, my bad. Let's see here. Let's see if I can find a link to it, because it was not, I think it was free. Let me see. Yeah. I want to link it to you guys, so you guys can have it. No, that's fine. Where is it? I should have had the link ahead of time, so that's my fault. Let me see. He's a Brazilian artist, which is awesome. Let me see if I could find his... We're off to a great start. Let me see. Where's the shop? Yeah, Marketplace. Let's see. Let's go. Bruno Camara Matt Cap. I think I know that. Oh, you know what? I know where the link's at. Hold on one second. My brain is dead today. Will ZBrush come on the iPad? The short answer is yes. The long answer is very soon. It will definitely be coming. Do not worry. In fact, if you signed up for that QR code, by the way, if you signed up for that QR code, I'll tell you right now, you want to keep an eye on your email. Check your spam too, because you might be receiving, at some point in time, you might be receiving, you know, like an email to be updated with that stuff. Here's the link. There we go. Found it. Here's the link for the material that I'm going to be using. So definitely check that out if you like this material. Boom, 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 boom. I actually really like this material a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. It's cool because it has like kind of that bronzish feel to it, very statuesque. And this also just helps me see things a lot better. Okay, so now that we did that, it's always fun. Here we're gonna go ahead and turn on our wireframe and we're gonna see the selection sets that we want. And we definitely want to grab this guy right here. And we're gonna center him this way, and then we're gonna come in and center this into the world. So this way we know that it is completely centered to the world space as we would like. Now, the fun part about this pose is that he's just hugging this thing, right? So we get to come in here and kind of make it our own little thing here. So, and what I realize is that we need to have it so his arms can wrap around. So we're gonna need something, say like this, right? But then I'm gonna want to mask this section off as well. And then I'm actually going to want to mask off this top section because I actually just want to stretch this on down, make it a little bit taller, because that's where I kind of failed isn't the right word, but this is where like it's just as far as the volume and stuff goes. Want to be able to, of course, make sure I grab the right stuff. So let's clear that mask. Boom, let's do that. And let's just bring this down. Say something like that. Okay, that's a little bit better. We can fix that later. That's fine. Okay. So now here, what I want to do is I usually start posing from the hips, and then I usually will, from there, just adjust the limbs and stuff. So here, it's pretty obvious that his head is like kind of wrapped around and squished on one side. And this pose might seem kind of simple at first, but there's a lot of deformation that's happening on his face here. So we're gonna want to try our best to replicate that. So thinking that the face is more squishier than the actual cup is gonna be our mindset. So again, let's block this off here, and then let's just start from the hips. So I'm gonna go ahead and so we're gonna raise this up a little bit, get his neck about, say, this level, and then his head's kind of leaning off to the side. So we're gonna kind of tilt him a bit. Let's go up a little bit higher. Actually, let's go a little bit lower here. Let's do something like that. Okay. And now we're going to take the select lasso, and we're going to select this section here. Then we're going to Control Shift A, and that's going to grab everything on his head. Let's mask this off. And then we're going to try to pivot this from his neck point. Yeah. Okay. And of course, he's too centered right now in the world. So let's mask off this cup. Let's mask that off. Let's move this more to the side. And with posing, you definitely want to take your time with this. So we want this to be right. Okay. you know what I'm going to do actually here? I'm going to turn him to the side a little bit. I want him kind of on the side because I want to see him from all angles. So my thought process right now is I want to see him from this angle. I want to see him from this angle. I want to see something of him from this angle. And of course, we want to see something from the back side. Anytime you're doing 3D printing or statue work, you want to come at it from all angles. What's up, Ashley? What's up, AQ? How you doing? What is going on? We're here with the posing stuff now. Oh, thanks. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and get this somewhat like this. Thriving. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Okay. I think this will relatively be pretty good. So let's grab all this again. We're also going to, I'm kind of going to want him to rotate his head just a little bit. Oh, there we go. This is going to be an interesting pose. I'm actually going to be digging this one. Okay. Okay, trying to think here. All right, so we got this. All right, let's start with the body here. So I'm actually going to, here's what I'm going to do on this. So we're going to start moving, I want to start moving his limbs and everything about it. So usually we'll do this in a few different stages. So let's do this first. To move it, I want to move his limbs and then I want to adjust accordingly. I'm not trying to get everything all at once. So I'm going to send this back for a second just to get things in place where I think they should be. Okay. We're going to go ahead and hit save as, and let's come in here to our chibi sculpt, chibi pose. What we're going to do is we're going to save over this one. And then we're going to save next, giving us another iteration. And then I'm literally going to just turn around. And on the coffee cup, let's turn everything off except for this one base right here. Like, I'm not going to move his head, but I just want to focus on his arms. It'll be way easier to work with the one object than working with all of these objects. So just doing myself a favor and not focusing too much on that. And then let's just go ahead and hit save so I don't have to redo that in case I break ZBrush, because I have a tendency to do that. Come in here and just send this forward. Ashley, are you streaming later today? Out of curiosity. Okay. And to save us some time, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go boop, and I'm just going to go ahead and just make this all one poly group, because I don't want to be fiddling with all these different poly groups here. But part of the other reason as well is with the new transpose tool, what I can do is I can press and hold control, start dragging this, get a little bit of a soft selection, then let go of control and start bringing this down so it's a little bit more in the middle here. So when I bend this, I get a lot more deformation. And then I come through here with a softer mask, come in, just soften that just a little bit more, unselect that stuff. Now this is in the middle, so I can start rotating this around, and we can make him hug this thing. And this is where you're gonna want clean topology. So if you're fighting, or you have Dynamesh as an example, then let me just tell you, like, Dynamesh is really going to give you problems. So this is where proxy pose, which is a new feature, would really come into play. Oi, oi. Sweet. Okay. So I'm going to soften this a bit more, and I'm going to push this forward. And we're just going to break it. So with posing, I recommend just going for it. Just break it here, because then you can always fix it. I'm going to grab this right here. There we go. Yeah, do that. Okay, we'll just leave that alone for now. Let's just do that. And then same thing. Let's come over here, drag and hold control, put that somewhere right about there. I'm gonna hide this guy for a second. Come in, mask that, kind of do a soften. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. And we have to imagine the other side of this. So we may move the cup or move him ultimately. In fact, that's exactly what needs to happen. We need to move him over a little bit more. There we go. I think if we hold him back, if we lean him back a bit, with my mind on my money and my money on my mind, do something like this. Okay, let's get this leaned over. Looks like nothing is getting done today with all the screaming. No, of course not, man. Of course not. Okay, let's pull this back a little bit. Okay, we're going to try this again. So now I'm going to clear this mask, going to come over here, press and hold control. Something like that's going. I'm going to do the same thing. Come in here, mask that off. Feather that mask. It's a lot of rinse and repeat when it comes to posing. Then, okay, I want his elbow in a little bit, but his hand is obviously in the wrong position, which is totally fine. We'll fix that. We just want this close enough. Okay. Now the fun part. And I don't mean that sarcastically, but kind of. I'm still using mostly transpo instead of the gizmo. So yeah, yeah. I love the gizmo. I think the gizmo is pretty fantastic. But sometimes I'll use the transpose line as well. I think it depends on my mood. Okay. So here, literally, let's. I almost hit solo for a second. We're gonna come in here. Okay. So I'm just ultimately gonna break this and fix this. Like this is kind of where it needs to be. Because there's not going to be a good way, so we're just going to do this, and we'll fix it. Let's get his leg all the way up there. Get all the way up there, buddy. Boop boop boop. And this is why I broke it off too, because 100% knew this is going to break. Like I'm ultimately going to, for the print itself, I'm going to end up welding this, welding it all together. So there'll be a little bit of, whatchamacallit, there'll be a little bit of like, can't find the word today. A little bit of creative liberty. We'll just call it that. There we go. Okay. I don't know if that made any sense, but it doesn't need to. Okay, so let's come in here. Let's mask this section off. Now, I'm not going to soften the knee as much because the knees usually have a more of a sharper deformation. You usually get something that tapers off like this, right? That's what we want. So we're just going to have that bent ever so slightly. But if you've ever ridden a horse before or had like, you know, jumped up on something and kind of wrapped your legs around it, then, you know, you'd know that this would kind of like bend in just a little bit. You kind of like rotate your hips out. So, well, I keep hitting solo. We don't need to do that. And actually, before we do that, let's do this. Let's look at this from the top. We'll bring this in, but we'll rotate this around. So like this. So your hips will rotate outwards and your knees will face out when you're trying to like hug on to something altogether. So always remember the knees kind of facing outwards a bit. And then we want to look at this from underneath as much as possible. So again, we'll rotate this just a bit. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Are there planes for a rigging system like Cinema 4D with weights for ZBrush? So my plan is to rig him in Cinema 4D, or to get a quick rig with like something like AccuRig and then bring it into Cinema 4D, because then yeah, I can do like a whole weight paint system and stuff like that. I'm still learning the Cinema 4D method of doing that, and since I want a 3D print of this as well as an animated version of him, I'm definitely just focusing on the 3D print side, because I'm still learning that elements of it. But what's fun is I've seen a lot of cool stuff. In fact, I'll show you kind of where my head is at, because I want to learn this new system. So if you type in Cinema 4D, was it Tune Animator? It's animation. This was actually been out for a while, and oh, it's like Sketch Tune. I think that's what it's called. No, that's not it. Where is it? So, okay, here it is. So this has actually been out for like a while, and I could see my character being rigged this way, which you can do easily in Cinema. And so I'm currently looking at this system to do that, and it seems pretty straightforward, which is nice. Nice, looks like IK rigs and stuff. So yeah, soft IK rigging. So this is something that I'm currently working on in the background, and then I want to actually rig him this way, because I think it's going to match the style super well to get him doing backflips and stuff. So this is like a bigger project ultimately, and I want to bring in more of this. So that's I think of that direction with this character. Yeah, Tune is cool. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'm new to the animation part of it. That's not something that I typically, I never really had to do that, since I come from toys and collectibles and game props. So the most I've ever done for animation is literally just attach some sort of mix-and-mode rig to it and then hand it off to the animators. That's the most I've ever done to it. But for the most part, prep everything and then send it on off. So it's actually quite neat to see this process. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about that. Okay, so we're going to come through here. But for this project, we're just going to stick with what we know. Okay. I want to make sure that this is masked off. And let's get in here. I didn't mean to turn on symmetry. And again, we're just going to boop. Okay, and immediately posing him tells me that my coffee cup itself might actually now be too tall. That's okay though. You know, we go for it. Okay. So we're going to make sure we don't break his booty too much. That's important to me. Rotate that around. There we go. Again, moving this up in the world. Okay. And of course, here is where we're going to start breaking stuff. This is where life gets complicated, right? So we need to do ourselves a favor here and start shaping some things up. So this is where we're going to have some manual work coming in, but that's okay. For right now, we're just going to do ourselves a favor, and we're going to just start implementing stuff down. All right, so it looks like I have double threading here, which I don't need all that. Interesting that occurred. That's fine. It's probably just the second one, and then we missed it, which is all good in the hood. So I'll leave that there, and we'll end up deleting hidden. Don't delete hidden from transpose master, because it may, when it tries to link back to your other canvas, that's where you can run into problems. So the tendency might be like, I found a second one, I don't need that, let me just delete that real quick. Don't do that. Just let that sit there for a bit, bring it on over, and then delete it when necessary. So, okay. And then here, we're gonna come in, and I'm just gonna go ahead and grab this guy right here. And we're just gonna hide this guy. And now let's just come in here and let's just rotate his hand around. Cool part about keeping the hands separate, of course, is that we get to do that. So we'll put this here, and of course we'll need to move his arm out a little bit, but this is going to be perfect because this will allow us for more fine tuning. And then same thing here. Let's go ahead and just grab a little bit of everything all at once. Control Shift A, mask that off. Boop, rotate that. And actually we could just center that more, rotate it so it's not moving as much. And then let's just know that we're going to be bending his arm up. And let's move this in. There we go. And there we go. Animation is really fun. Yeah, it looks really fun. That's what's so cool about it, is that it definitely is something I'm super interested in learning more of the pipeline. I'm at that point in my career where I want to expand more of my knowledge and have more familiarity with a lot of the different industries. And so with animation is definitely something that I know a little bit about, because when I was in high school, so I graduated high school in 2001. I went to Burbank High, and basically, like, I was studying to be an animator. So I have a funny story. So studying to be an animator, I used to draw a lot. In fact, if you scroll on my Instagram, IR_sculpt, if you scroll far enough, you'll see some older artworks and stuff that I posted. But I used to draw a lot of anime and stuff when I was in high school, like before anime was cool, right? So like mid to late 90s, anime still wasn't that cool, believe it or not. And so long story longer, basically I ended up just drawing a ton of it and was like studying animation, and ultimately it just, like, I went to a studio, I saw how like the animation process works and stuff, and I spoke to an animator who wasn't like necessarily super happy with his job, and that was just no good. So and also too, people were telling me at that time, like, oh, you know, you can't draw anime, it's not lucrative business. And at that time it wasn't really, but little did even we know back then that it was going to be a very lucrative industry. So I just kind of put the pencils up and didn't really do anything else. But now, like, it's actually quite fascinating because, you know, I want to kind of get back into a little bit of that, a little bit of drawing, you know, probably get into some concept work, which would be a lot of fun. I know ACube you draw. I would probably pick your brain a bit more, but it's definitely something more I want to end up doing. Okay, we're getting something. So I extended the coffee cup, and we didn't need to do that, but luckily the topology of this coffee cup is actually super low, so we don't really need to worry. I could bring that back. So I'm not really, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not really worried about that. Like, I could just do this. We could go boop. We could do something more like this. There we go. And we'll fix that ultimately. Now let's go ahead and let's bend the knee. Bend your knee. Hey, let's see here. Hello, what's up, Jay? How you doing? Hey, Ian. I know it's a tangent from the topic, but can you tell me how to sculpt a rocky surface? It's a ring, and then the surface is rocky crystals coming from all around it. Ooh, rocks. Rocks are super cool. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me finish let me finish my posing thought, and then we'll put my rock sculpting hat on, and I'll show you some cool techniques. What I can tell you is immediately up here in the light box, if you go to, I can tell you right now the brushes I use for all my rock content. So Trim Dynamic is a huge one. I love Trim Dynamic. That's a big one. H Polish is also a really good tool for that. But then if you come up here to the light box, go to brush, and you go to, where are you, mallets? Where are my mallet brushes? Move, morph, blah, 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 blah. Hold on 1 second. Why is my brain dropping? Trim is good. There you go, mallet. Oh my God, it's right here in my face. There you go, Ian. And mallet. So the mallet brushes, really, really cool. Great brushes to use as well. So I'll show you some cool techniques when I pop over there. Absolutely. How did the Blink-182 come into using the rabbit? Ooh, dude, that's a story, man. That is a story. It's actually a super fun story. So basically, the Blink-182 rabbit came to be because I was actually in my Discord hanging out with some friends, and I was just like really bored and I didn't know what to sculpt. I was bored and I didn't know what to sculpt. And I'm sure all of you can relate to this very common problem. Also, real quick, I'm leaving space here between the coffee cup and this boot because I hid his other boots, which are much thicker, and I don't want to move his leg too much, and I can always come back in. I just want enough of a deformation on this, so I'm going to leave this alone. So if you're wondering why I'm leaving there a bit of a space, that is why. Okay, and then we're just going to come in here. So anyway, so I was bored in my Discord one day, and ultimately was like, hey, what should I, like, I need to sculpt something. I'm kind of like, you know, bored. And so a few friends in the Discord were like, you know what, album covers are really cool. And I've always wanted to sculpt the Blink Bunny. So I took this advice and almost immediately ignored it when I saw the Blink Bunny. It was just like, okay, I won't do an album cover, but I will do a band mascot. And the Blink Bunny was the mascot I wanted to choose because it's literally one of my favorite bands of all time. Like Blink-182 was there for me in my childhood when the rest of the world was not. We'll just leave that story like that, right? So the 90s was a very difficult time for some of us. So anyway, so I ended up sculpting it and then making just calling it fan art and just saying like, dude, this is what I love, and made a 3D print of it, and everything was copacetic, right? And then usually I'll have people that will reach out and ask if I'm available for freelance. And so because I was actually pretty available for a quick job, this one guy called me and he was just like, hey, quick question for you. Are you available for a quick project? You know, this is what it is. And he had brought up, you know, a certain Tom DeLonge. It was just like, hey, can you know, they're looking for a quick project. Like literally, you got to have this done in a couple days. And they were looking for, basically, they hoped that somebody had already made the bunny. And so in basically doing their research, they found out they couldn't find anything. They didn't like what anybody had done. They had all said like, this was close enough, but not quite. This is not good. This wasn't right. And then the guy who I was speaking to was like, well, I know this artist that had done it. And they showed my Instagram post to them, and they loved it. According to him, they all said, quote, yes, this guy understands. This guy gets it. This is our bunny. So, and so they were like, can you get the bunny from him? So they call me and they basically just like, can you get this animation ready in 2 days? And I was like, yes, I could do that. So I basically just crunched it out real quickly, talked to everybody, and then from there, within 24 hours, I had it turned around and gave it to them. They sent me the overall, like, they animated it really quickly because there was another guy who was building the scenery. They animated it really fast, and then they turned around and sent me samples of the animation. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, which is totally fine, because I realized I should have like some sort of reference. If you come here to my portfolio, here's the bunny that we're talking about. This was the original post that I had made in ZBrush. And this is a Redshift, ZBrush Redshift render. And so this was what they were like, dude, yes, this is it. And then they sent me this video as a sample, asking like, hey, you know, what do you think of this? Does this look good? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, this looks pretty awesome. Like, I wish I had more time to really texture it. Like, for me, I wanted there to be more time to do more to it. But this is what I had at the time. And they were in love with it. And that's what matters. At the end of the day, if your client is happy with what it is you're doing, that's all that matters. You know, and for me, they were like, yes, this is perfect. So then they ended up opening last year's tour, not the one they're currently on, but the one they did last year, their world tour. They actually came on, and this is how they started. And I believe this was based in Chicago. So this was ultimately it. It was so cool. And I really just ended up digging this. So this was my second really big animation piece that I had done. And it was really a lot of fun. Really dug it. And there's the story. Oh, I barely speak English correctly. I don't speak a second language, unfortunately. I know bits and pieces of it. Russian is something that I've never tried to really learn. So, yeah, I just don't know it. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, let's see. I think the true lucrative business related to anime right now are gacha mobile games with anime characters. Yeah, absolutely. Chibis are cool too. You don't use orb brushes for rocks. However, they're not standard ones, but extremely popular. No, actually, well, yes, Anna, yes and no. I do use orbs as well, but a lot of my stuff, I actually just use the standard brushes. I have a few morph target tricks that I actually end up using for some cracks and stuff like that. But orbs is really cool. I do like their orb brushes. I just don't typically stay with the default because it's just faster for me. Yeah, guys, if you guys don't know who Ashley Adams is or Anna, definitely say hi to them and follow them because they're both amazing live streamers and great sculptors. Oh yeah, thanks Ash. Thanks Ash. Yeah, that's a fun story. It was so random. I loved it. Thanks Brat. Thank you. Yeah, big same on default brushes. Absolutely. Okay, here's what we need to do. So we're close enough at this point. So I've gone wild in life. I've done some crazy things as a kid, all right? If you're with me, you understand that pushing everything to the envelope, not saving, is like crucial. I'm not as organized when I'm on huge projects, but for the live stream, we're gonna go back here. We're gonna kick this back. We've done a lot of work, guys. We've done a lot of work, you know, and so we gotta be true to ourselves. We gotta understand that we don't want to just ruin all of our work, right? So we're going to come in here, we're going to come on up, and we're going to go back, and let's come in, and let's save our progress, because we want to see more of this. We want to see more of this come to life, too. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the swords, right? We're going to come in here. I'm going to hide a few things, okay? And we're going to go ahead and just make sure that a lot of this gets pulled out this way. Better hit solo for 5 seconds. Okay, great. We'll move this out. Put the body back on. Put the bodies on the floor. Put the bodies on the floor. And now we're going to end up moving a lot of this stuff over. There we go. Rotate this a little bit. Because we didn't really change the chest too much, we can kind of just eye this back in its normal spots as much as possible. And move this over just a little bit. There we go. All right, maybe bring this down and just a little bit more of a rotation. And maybe too, just a little bit of a lean back, because I remember leaning him back a little bit. All right, I'd say that's getting pretty close. And maybe rotate that just a bit. Okay, and then we'll save it, and then we'll go over some rock techniques. That's gonna be fun. Let's actually do that. Let's save this, and we'll hit up the rock question, which will be fun. I remember you sculpting this in the Discord. Yeah. You remember the Blink Discord day? Yeah. Yeah, that was super fun, man. That was super fun. Hey, what's going on, Gus? How you doing? How you doing? I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Getting ready for a show next week. I'm at NAB, and then soon after that, I got another work trip that's happening. So all the work stuff and things. It's all happening all at once. Here. Real quick. I'm gonna do just a little bit of this manual strap. Push this in just a teeny bit. Okay. All right. So rocks. So let's talk rocks. Let's talk rocks. Here, let's put him over here, because why not? Let's get him going. Let's move this over here. So with rocks, we're gonna switch. We're gonna come in here. We're just gonna start with a sphere, drag this out, hit T for edit, and make polymesh 3D. So rocks, reference is king. Like with anything, reference is king, right? So you definitely want to come in there and get some sort of reference. But the idea is, like, you know, if we were to come in here to Google real quick and just type in, that's not a rock, that's a boulder. Wow, with big old text. We're gonna leave that there because I keep hitting cap locks and stuff like that. No, not now. That's fine. Let's go to images. And here we just want to, you know, like something like this looks pretty cool. This is a pretty cool shape. So what we want to first identify is overall the primary shapes. Even something like this rock here, we just want to take a look at shapes and see what makes up the bulk of it. All the details, look past that. Don't look at a single bit of detail when we're talking about rocks. What you're really looking at is the main shape of it. Is it kind of more squarish? Is it round? You know, the pitting and stuff like that, it's usually pretty simple to knock that stuff out once you get there. But ideally, when you're taking a look at a rock, just like anything, there's anatomy to it. And that anatomy is what you want to call out. So if you want something a little bit more thin or more roundish or more squared off, these are areas in which you want to kind of go for. So let's say we want to do a little bit more of a squared off shape like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is choose the appropriate shape, right? So I did start here with some sort of like sphere. But if we want to do a little bit more of a, you know, of a squared off shape like this, then what we could do is actually just quickly initialize, come in here, cube this a little bit, maybe scale this up. We don't need that anymore. Scale this up a bit. And then let's give ourselves some geometry. So I'm just going to go to geometry, turn off the smooth function, and divide this a few times and delete that. So now we have something like this. Or what you can do is you can shape yourself first. So you can even go simpler than this. You can come down, turn off all your resolution and say cube so that it's all, you know, just single-sided geometry. Oh, it's not single-sided, but, you know, there's no edge loop support here. And we can actually come in and maybe do a little bit of a quick shape here, say something like that. And that works fine. And then we're going to come in here and I'm going to divide a few times and then delete. So I get a little bit of topology. I personally do like to work in Dynamesh when I'm working with rocks because you can rebuild really quickly. So the reason why I actually subdivide a few times and delete is to then get a more accurate Dynamesh look for it. I can guess if I start here from 0, so if I come back over here and say, okay, I could go to Dynamesh and say, well, what's resolution 28 look like? And that could give me something that's usable. But if I just divide a few times real quick, delete lower, and then I come over to Dynamesh and I pick the picker, I then can identify the resolution that I want to work with. So 72 is actually pretty good, and that gives me something to start. Now, what I like to recommend is come up here to render, and if you're in 2022, this works for you as well. Come up to render, go up to preview AO, and turn on that occlusion. That's actually going to give you a real-time ambient occlusion look, and it's really like looking at the depth of each cut. So you're more getting like a cavity effect. But the reason why you'd want to do that is because now we can start shaping, and we can see how some of the shadows might fall on the rock. So if I turn on trim dynamic, say something like this, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to come in and start hitting up some of the corners here. So I'm going to come in, nice big brush, and I'm just going to start hitting up some of these areas just like this. And I'm just doing a rough sketch, nothing too crazy. So say something like this. Now, mind you, I'm not an environment artist, but in our statue work, anytime we do collectibles, we do have to identify where the character lives. So we do spend a lot of time as toy makers making environment pieces. So you end up learning a little bit about environments while you're doing toys, which is super fun. So, and now say something like just kind of a rough shape-ish. And one thing about rocks, which is super fun and why I can sculpt them forever, is there are sharp edges on rocks, but the sharp edges usually happens where there is some sort of damage to the rock, i.e. a rock cracked open, fell apart, it dropped. Usually if a rock is standing alone all by itself and is only exposed to the environments, over time, what will happen is the rock will become round and soft. And the reason for it is because water will corrode it over time, and it will start taking away a lot of those harsh features. When a rock breaks, either like a mudslide or some sort of like earthquake happens, anything like major comes through, another rock falls on a rock, those things, that's where those sharp edges will live. So when you're designing your rock and you're looking at your reference, you always just kind of want to take a look at where they're sharp and why. So something like here, you can see these kind of crevices and they cracks, and all of these are cool and interesting. But as it stops breaking over time, these areas ended up getting really soft, which is why you end up getting nice smooth stones over time. Because even if we look at these, you can see some of these are a little bit rough, but this one right here is very, very smooth. This one over here is smooth as well, which indicates that there's a lot of water that rushes over these rocks on a daily basis. So this picture was probably taken somewhere either by a lake or by the sea where tides come in. And they're kind of rough because they're clanking against each other, but they're getting softer over time because they're becoming more they move with the elements. So little things like that is super easy to do that stuff. What up, Carbon 44444? What's happening, buddy? Hey, Ian, I have a question. How can I get more Dynamesh resolution? Sometimes I subdivide and a Dynamesh object to sculpt on top, but after that, there's no going back. Okay, so Dynamesh is resolution, and I'll actually cover it while I'm making this rock. Dynamesh resolution is based on the size or / the scale of your scene. So, for example, right now we're at 72, and up at the top, you can see my active points is 24,000 total points, which is nothing. That's child's play, people. That's nothing, right? But if we come down under geometry towards the bottom and pick size, take a look at this. So your default size in ZBrush, every time you open up a project, like the sphere project, like say this one right up over here, this one right here, your default size project in ZBrush is equivalent to 2 millimeter. And if you don't know what that is, it's very, very small. It's very, very small. And that is the size that ZBrush normally operates. Anytime you were to come up here and check your size on something, so let's say I would grab my transpose tool here, one of my favorite ones for measuring, come in here and measure this point to this point, you'll see here that it says 2.0131 units. However, if I were to set scene scale, this units is equal to millimeters. So by default, you're working at microscopic levels when you're working in ZBrush, and that's something to keep in mind. So when you scale something up, and this is actually a trick I showed in 2021, I think, which is the first ZBrush Summit or the first online ZBrush summit where they actually reached out to our ZBrush live artists and asked us to give them tips and tricks. And I think this one went over I think this one went over a few people's heads on this because maybe I probably didn't have a good time explaining it. But basically, this is where Stager was a new feature introduced, and this was a lifesaver to me. Because I know that Dynamesh is directly tied to the size of the actual model. The thing is that if I were to set like a home stage and scale this up, like by a lot. So let's just say something like this. So I scaled it up. Boop, 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 boop. So now if I look at size, I'm at 13.9. So I went from 2.0 to 13.9. So we'll call it 14 for the sake of sakes. And then I say target stage and I switch back and forth, right? That's my small scale, that's my big scale. If I were to just re-Dynamesh this at 72, now I went from 24,000 to 1.05 million total points. So it's all resolution based on size. The size of your actual model matters. So if you want to get more resolution out of Dynamesh, then this is what you would need to do. However, every subtool does have a limitation on how far you can take something. And typically, even I see that like, I'll have a model that won't want to break 7 or 8 million total points on Dynamesh. At that point, I recommend remeshing anyway, projecting your details back because you can get more out of it, or you end up using Sculptris Pro, but at some point you'll hit the limitation of how much topology that one subtool can have, because there is a limitation to it. I can't remember the exact number, but it's not super high. So you want to just kind of like balance this out a little bit. And again, if I switch this back, and then now I re-Dynamesh again, you can see we went right back to the 24,000. So if you just manipulate the scale of your model, you'll get more resolution out of your Dynamesh. Perfect, perfect. Hey, thanks for the tip. I was actually trying to make a rock earlier, but I was going to use Sculptris. Oh, Sculptris is perfect for that too. I was having an issue with smoothing parts and getting small holes, but then I would move around and some parts would go away, would stay, and close holes didn't fix it. Any ideas why? Interesting. You could have intersected geometry, or quite possibly you have 2 points where there is no hole, but it's not. But you've created an internal. You've created internal geometry, which then maybe isn't welding correctly like you think. So there are a couple solutions to that. It's possible. Something like that's a little bit more like if I see it, I can answer it clearly, but that sounds like maybe that's what that is. When in doubt, what you could do is you could do auto groups. Do auto groups on your poly groups and then try to isolate the outer shell and then delete hidden and then close holes. And that might solve the problem for you. Maybe, quite possibly. So, okay. So I'm going to up the resolution just a bit on this. So I'm going to do just a little bit more. Hit that just to get something. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and use those mallet brushes. And this is what I was really talking about. I like these brushes a lot. So you can also use these mallet brushes for like wood and stuff, which is fun. If I were to take a mallet brush here and I were to start coming in and just scraping across, maybe up my resolution just a teeny bit more, say boop, something like that. There we go. Yeah, something like that. Now what I can do, as you can see with this mallet brush, I can come in here and I can start refining some of this. And you want to kind of pick a direction. You don't want to do this. You just don't want to be like randomly doing this. You want to pick a direction. Same thing with muscle too. Anytime you're sculpting like muscle or directional information, you want to pick a direction and stick with it. So something like this would be pretty good. And I don't want to go too deep on that. Say something like this. And I'm just roughing this out just so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. But you can see even just like in little chunks, it's starting to get me something that looks pretty cool. And what you can also do as well is come up here to Dynamesh, turn polish on and turn blur off. And when you do this, the next time I Dynamesh, I'm gonna lightly hit some of this up. I'm just kind of light tapping, do this. I'm gonna get a little bit more of those sharp edges on that. I'm going to come in here. You can do little gouges like this if you need to. This is what I love about this brush. It doesn't take much either, which is super fun. Just nice little light strokes. And then you can even adjust the intensity a little bit. Do a little bit of like a circular stroke and then on top. And again, I'm just kind of following the direction of how I want this to be. Coming in, and I'm just kind of stacking this a little bit. Right? And then I can come in here. Now if I dynamesh that again, that resolution is not high enough, so I can kick this up a bit. And again, I can either increase the resolution, or what I can just do is I can just increase the scaling a little bit. If my scene isn't fully set, I'll just scale it up a little bit so I'm not hitting it too hard. And then now I'll come back here to H polish, and we'll start refining some of these areas a little bit. And let's actually drop the focal shift just a bit, and I will scale this up a bit because I'm going to want some topology here. And what's cool about the H polish is, again, you can kind of stack in some of these areas. Refine some of this. Now, again, let's turn that is turned on, which is great. And then I'll switch back to, like I said, I'll switch back to the mallet fast. Anytime you pick a brush from the top, it'll go back into your brush menu, so I don't have to come back up to the light box. I can if I want to change brushes, but if I just come over to hit B for brush, now that I've picked it, it defaults down at the bottom. And again, now I can just come in and we can hit some of this stuff. Now, if I wanted to add like some cracks to this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig in a little bit. So I'm going to want some cracks happening just underneath here. So I'm going to dig in just slightly on this side. So maybe I'll want a little bit of cracks happening there. Maybe dig in a little bit here. Again, just following a direction. Redynamesh that just a bit. There we go. And you can see you can start really having some fun with this. You can start digging in. And now I have this little shape here. Maybe I want to turn this into a crack. So what we can do now, which is really cool, we can come in here and let's turn on our morph target. So I'm going to store a morph target here, and let's go with damn standard. And I'm going to come in here with a little bit of a bigger brush. I'm going to start coming in and carving this up. Okay, so we'll have something like this. Okay. We'll shrink the brush down just a little bit and get something. Now, this doesn't look really enticing. This is really soft right here. So we stored a morph target. And the reason why we did that is now we want to call back some of this information. So we can come up here to B for brush, M for morph target, and where are we? I think it's G. There it is. Boom. And now what I can start doing is painting some of this back. And this will give me a little bit of like a sharper edge to this. Now this will be usually based on your resolution. So you can see here my resolution's not that strong. But when I take a step back, you can see this is where it was. This was before. It's all nice and soft here. Now I'm getting that nice sharp edge back in this area. And then I can come in here and just continue that forward with damn standard a little bit. And that'll give me some nice sharp edges on that. So anytime I want to do that, you just come in here. Again, you make some big changes. Maybe I cut this in like this, just a little bit. Go back to morph. And I'll just actually paint right next to it, pushing that edge just a little bit. Or maybe I want that crack to kind of come through and stop right there. So you can push some of that information back. So you can start getting some shapes like this. And you just start working your way all the way up until you get what you're looking for. Thanks a lot. The limitation is what got me down it. I guess there was some points. Yeah, guess I'll have to use your remesh. Yeah, use remesh. I would recommend use remesh for sure. What about controlling the amount of polygons while doing remesh? When I remesh a mesh for the minimum amount, the polygons create too many polygons anyway. Does this process, is it also related to the size of the mesh? No, it's not related to the size of the mesh. That's a great question. So here, let's just hit save as, because why not? Rock, boulder. Okay, so it's not based on the size of the actual mesh. Mesh itself. It's actually a number that is trying to tell you how many polygons you actually want. So let me explain. Hey, what's up, Ryan? Pixel and Plastic, how you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. Okay, so let's turn off Dynamesh for a second, and let's say we want to rematch this, right? First thing I want to do is come up here to the top. We always want to come to the top and store history by holding Control or Command if you're on Mac, and just tapping in that little spot right there. If you want to have the very last piece of history, and you have this blank space that's over here, you can literally just click this blank space, and that will turn on or off from the last one. So that's the way to do it. Anyway, so let's say we want to ZRemesh this. So if we go to ZRemesher, this number right here, 5 target polygon count, that is in thousands. So think of it in that way. So 5,000 target polygon, that's the default. So here we have a total of 2.366 million active points or vertices. And here we're trying to give you about 5,000 polygons, or what is it times, well, yeah, just 5. Let's keep it simple. I was going to do weird math. Let's not do that. So 5,000. So that's very small in comparison to the million of points that I actually have, right? So think of it in that way. It doesn't matter how big or small your subject is. What matters is how many vertices or active points you're trying to stretch across the wide vast of it. So in your case, if your item is really, really small, and it doesn't take a lot of polygons to actually go across this entire shape, then yeah, it might be too much, and then you'll have to scale it down. But think of it in that sense. That's the number of it, right? So in this case, I always recommend you want to start high anyway and work your way down, because the key of ZRemesher is to retain the volume and the shape language of your object. So you're not trying to lose shape language or the work that you've built. You're trying to break it down far enough where it's still able to be sculpted on and maintain that shape, but not defined enough to actually retain a lot of detail, because you don't want the first subdivision level to be super dense. Not typically. There are cases in which you want a more dense mesh depending on what you're going for. Like we just literally built this this little cute character for Maxon. Here, I'll show you real quick. And when I was talking to the team, so if I were to come here, and I'll just type me in. There we go. Oh, well, look, there's only 2 of us on here. Yay. Go Ethery and Robinson. So here, for example, this little cute mascot robot that I just built a couple weeks ago for Maxon, like when I was talking to the animation team and in posing, I told them, I said, you know, the detail here, I can drop down the legs and the arms really, really low. And they actually came back and said, do me a favor and keep that a little bit more dense. Like, it's okay to make that more dense, because there's certain tools in Cinema 4D, the way they wanted to rig it, they actually wanted the density of it. They didn't want a loose deformation to where you could see the polygons. So we actually went a lot denser in the arms and in the legs per request from the animation team. So in doing so, it actually ended up working out. So there are cases in which it's important to work with the team and identify how big or small something is, but typically you want clean topology and you want it to be low enough to be manipulated. And so here we have a little bit more dense on the actual arms for this reason. So if I were to actually turn on the Marmoset viewer here, and we take a look at this and we look at here, you could see that it's a little bit dense here. But again, this was a preference that they wanted because we wanted to retain this shape, and they did some really cool magic that we can't wait to share. So that being said, right, let's going back here. When we're talking about ZRemesher, the idea is keep it low enough that it holds the shape and the volume, but keep it dense enough that it's you know, holding on to the main shape, but you can subdivide and put details on it. Hopefully that made sense. I tend to rant a lot. So how does this work here? So 2.3 million, 5, that's probably not enough for me. So I'm gonna kick up to say something like 20 to 30,000. So I'm kicking it down quite a bit. So I just move, basically what I do is I take this number right up here. Simple way to do it, 2.3 million. I take this decimal and I move it one time to the right. And that number, 23.6 mil, or the 23.6, I think of that in thousands. That could be close enough. So here I have like 26 to 28. Sounds good. So if I say ZRemesh now, then I should get something that's actually pretty cool. So let's give it a second to do that. And then let me look back on the chat while that works, because I clicked a different link. Hey, what's up, Ryan? And we're thinking. And sometimes, you know, anytime I hit ZRemesher on a big item, I usually think, oh, okay, it's time for a coffee break or something like that. But it's only because, too, what it's trying to do is I didn't do some of the other settings I like to showcase. I kept adaptive turned on, and it's trying to adapt the quads as to the different size of shapes. So we might see some really small quads and some really big quads because of how ZRemesher works. And if I go ahead and turn on the wireframe here, so Shift F, sorry. Yes, okay, I got a morph target on. Well, I'm so sorry, morph target. Let me back this up, delete that. Okay, and let's just go ahead and say remesh. Let's do that one more time. Turn off your morph target if you end up trying to change things. Oh, I also could have just, I guess I could have just changed brush. I have that on. It's okay. When you're done with morph targets, if you make a habit of deleting them, you'll save yourself some issues. Morph targets are good, but sometimes if you leave them on for too long, I use them for specific purposes. I tend to forget, and then I'll be like, oh, I had a morph target, and I'll sometimes lose myself. So I tend to delete it if I'm not using it. Okay, so doop-a-doop-a-doop. Also, too, I have a habit of over-explaining stuff because I really want you guys to get it. So I love questions like this, by the way, but I tend to rant, right? So, okay, so here you go. You could see here that I had adaptive turned on. This isn't too bad, right? This held the shape for the most part. We went from 2.3 million to 26,000. And again, I picked 26.2 and I got 26,300, blah, blah, blah. So that's the correlation. Now, it's not always going to be accurate. It's just more of a guideline. It's going to get close enough, and that's what we really want. So now the way I like to use ZRemesher, especially in the 2023 version, so this is one of my favorite features, is this retry functionality here. So if you end up doing something that's too low or too high, or you want to change your setting a little bit, then what you can end up doing, like this is what I like to do, I keep adapt turned on, but I turn adaptive size down to 0. And the reason why I do that is because I want the power of the quads to adapt to its shape and make it as clean as possible, but I don't like big quads, small quads. That's inconsistent and can make sculpting on it a little bit difficult. So I actually turn that down to 0, and then I turn keep groups on and I turn smooth groups down to 0 because it's not shrinking, but you do get a sense of loss in the volume if you're going lower than you anticipate, right? And let's say I do want to go smaller than this. So I'll actually drop this down a little bit, and then I'll say retry. And what it's going to do is it's going to take a look at the very first time that I ZRemesh, so the mesh beforehand, the Dynamesh mesh. And then it's going to retry ZRemesher based on that information, but it's going to populate a second mesh for me in my history bar. So now I can compare the generic ZRemesh to my new settings. And this is a fun feature because sometimes there is a little bit of guesswork in how you want the topology to be. And there are things that you can do to use polygroups and have clean selections. All that stuff will make your job a lot easier. But if you're just doing something quick, down and dirty like this, then ultimately this will end up working out for us, right? So let's go ahead and let that finish. Boom. Okay. So this actually went a lot lower. This went to 16,000 and the shape was still pretty much retained and the quads are a lot more even. If I come back here, you can see some smaller quads, some bigger quads up on top. It's subtle for this shape. It's more noticeable on big bendy stuff, but this is okay. This is, I'll take this one, right? So now that I have this, now I'll just subdivide a few times. And then we'll just come up here to our subtool, project history, and just let that detail pop over it. Boom. Cool. Now I have more workable topology. And here's the thing. Now I only have about 1 million. The Dynamesh mesh was 2 million, and it was struggling to retain that shape, right? But here, now I have almost the same resolution. And if we can compare this too. So if I were to take this one right here, so this is my new mesh. So I'm going to stamp that. And now we're going to come back to this. So there's a little bit of loss of detail, but not a whole lot. It's very subtle between the two. This being the Dynamesh mesh and this being the remesh mesh. And this is 2.3 million, where this one was 1 million. So the power of ZRemesher giving us better topology, holding details a lot better, allows us to work a little bit faster. And then again, we just come back in and we just start retaining a lot of our, we just start vibing this out. So you come in here and you just start shaping away as much as possible. And this is my approach to rocks and stuff. And then of course, if you do have the orbed crack ones, which is super fun, which I actually think I do. Let me see here. If I do, this is for you, Anna. Let's see here. If I come into here and then I come into, okay, I need to, hold on. I have things and stuff. I can't just go diving. Can't go diving down rabbit holes. Do I have them on this computer? Well, that's a good question. If I don't, you know you can find them pretty quickly. I thought I had them here. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. Let me see. I'll do a quick search. But this is, then you can, yeah, bring in the orb crack brushes. Not orb. Ooh, I don't think I have them on this computer. Well, that's okay. So then actually, I know you can download them pretty quick. Orb crack brush. I know there's somewhere. Actually, you know what? I think I actually have them. I think I purchased them on my Instagram. I mean, my ArtStation. Let me see real fast. Well, I won't go down that rabbit hole. We don't have a whole lot of time today, but here you guys go. You can actually, if you don't have this one, then I'll share the link for you because these are actually really cool brushes. So let's come in here and let's share that. Boom. So, yep. Thank you for the detailed answer. Absolutely. You can find them on Gunroad. Perfect. So, yeah, there's that. I think I got them on ArtStation at one point. Let's see. If I go to my library and then... But, yeah, they're super fun brushes. So then you could just detail it the rest of the way. But this is pretty much how I dive into rock making and stuff like that. And I'll just use the other brush too, actually, is the /3 brush. So slash and then /3. This is a super fun brush because you get to really like take shapes like this. So if you don't have the orb crack brush, then what you can do, again, you can come in here and here, let's just do this real fast. Come in there, grab this detail. Again, you can come in here, do your morph target. Boom, bada bing, come in and actually turn on, let's go to stroke, lazy mouse, pump that sucker up. So you can actually come in here and do some refinement a little bit. And then you can even do like, you can do stuff like this, which is pretty cool. Maybe take that mallet brush back a little bit, dive in a little bit, gouge this out. Long story short, it's a rinse and repeat thing. Now, like I said, I like to do a lot of this when I'm doing it in Dynamesh because then I can rebuild the surface. But if you wanted to have like some gougies, that's the new term, then yeah, you just come in here and you just start refining. So anyway, I've butchered this rock enough, but hopefully that gives you an idea, or at least a direction on how to start. And now back to Deadpool. Oh yeah, /2. I use /2, Ash, for like seams in my clothing. Yeah, I have them somewhere. I have them somewhere. I think what happened was like 2 months ago, I ended up moving a lot of stuff over to OneDrive at work, and then I lost some brushes. I think I didn't back some brushes up, but I have them on my my art station and stuff. Everywhere else I've purchased them. Okay, so now here's what we're gonna do. We're actually gonna come through here with the boots, and I'm just gonna merge the boots folder together. So then I have something like this. And let's start shaping this a little bit more. So I'm gonna take this guy, boop, grab this. And now we just start placing the boots everywhere. Das Boot. Okay, let's rotate this around. Yes. Oh, perfect. And we still need to, I still eventually need to weld the inside of this boot together. Yeah, make these smooth, that's fine. We still need to, you can see I got a giant hole there still, which is, that's okay. We'll fix all that. Right now, we're just trying to get it all put in its proper place. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and move this one. You'll use it to further mess up your sketches. That's perfect. There is no other way. That sounds like a perfect workflow. I'm always messing up my sketches. I mean, are you even an artist if you're not messing up your sketches? Do you even art? And let's do this real quick. Let's go to transpose. Let's rotate this up a little bit more. Okay, cool. Say something like that. Okay, cool. All right, let's turn the rest of this. So first things first. All right, we have the armor. The armor is moved over quite nice, which is good. We'll need to fix some of this here, which is totally fine. Totes my goats. We can just turn, again, all that color off for a second. And we start refining a lot of this. Oh, hold on. So I have symmetry turned on, and I don't want that turned on. No, I read your messages. I see you, Punch and Ball. You were the one who asked about the resolution based on world size. Or did I miss that one? You could say that Dynamesh resolution is based on world size, so it's a bigger object in space. Yeah, basically, that's a clear way of looking at it. You thought you were banned for real? No, no. Sorry, yeah. My brain's a little foggy. I have like 20 million things going on, and I'm trying to hit everybody's questions. So, and then I just keep talking. That's it. That's all I do. I just keep talking. So my bad. No. You're good. You're not banned. Okay, somebody ban him. I'm just kidding. Okay. All right, so let's turn that back off. There we go. Perfect. All right, so we'll move that arm back out a little bit. Okay, we don't need the boots turned on. What happened to my eyes? Oh, there they are. They're right there. Okay, great. So let's do that. Now let's do something real quick here. So we have this turned on, and here's the thing. I actually want this to be a pen holder. So here's what's going to be kind of cool about this. So here's the lid, right? So we want this to be a pen holder. And of course, we're also kind of interpreting a little bit of, we're trying to interpret how this is actually going to work, because clearly in 2D, if we look at the reference, like it feels like the anatomy was able to be cheated a little bit, right? Because the subject is Deadpool's face. And so it's not the coffee cup. The coffee cup is the complement to the character. So we really want to make sure that we are trying our best to match this as much as possible, but we also want a somewhat realistic approach to this. It has to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then it's just going to feel a little funky-dunky. But what we can do is cheat a few things here. So one of the things I'm going to cheat is getting this head up here a little bit more and maybe pulled forward just a little bit. And we're going to have this clip just for a second, because then we'll add what I like to call the squish factor. So we'll like bring this up a bit and have this start kind of coming down here a little bit, like his face is resting on it. Okay. Yeah, that's starting to look a lot more adorable. Let's grab this guy, and not any of that. Let's bring this up. There we go. So maybe I did adjust the cup size just fine. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. It's actually looking pretty cute. So let's come over here, come bring this on back, and we're just gonna go ahead and hit save for this. And now what we wanna do is, like I said, I want this to be a pen holder. That's the goal for me. So we get to do something, which is really fun. We get to size a few things. So if we come up here to project, you can see here that we have Wacom right here, right? So if I come in here, I just saved this Deadpool character. So I have a Wacom pen, and then of course too, I have a couple of the grips here. So I'm gonna grab, I believe it's this one. So I'm gonna open up this project. I'm gonna say, nope, no need to save this one because we already did that. And now we have this pen holder. This will hold pretty much any pen that looks like this. This one's by Sense Labs, but pretty much any pen that looks like this, it's gonna hold this. And you can see here that it's already designed with polygroups in mind, which is fantastic. So what does this mean for us? Let's come back over here. Let's load our Chibi Deadpool 2 pose. And let's go ahead, come back here to the pen holder, turn off perspective because we don't need that. I'm gonna hit copy, come in here, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit paste. So let's just paste this somewhere and go paste. Bam. Beautiful. And now you can see in real world scale here. Remember when I was saying 2 millimeters? Okay, it might be a little hard to see, but there's my Deadpool character right in there. That's how big he is, from like right here to right here. And this is the size of the pen holder, right? If I were to move this pen holder out the way, look at that. There's our little Deadpool, there's the pen holder. So we want to work at the scale of the pen holder, right? So instead what we're going to do is we're going to move this down all the way to the bottom. And we're going to turn this off. Turn off transparency, make sure everything is turned on that we absolutely need it to. So we're going to do everything, including the boots, because I just did right now I just did a weld on, on those, or a merger rather. So we're going to come in here. We're going to make sure everything is turned on, except for this pen holder. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and select everything. I'm going to scale. No, not solo. Grab everything. We're going to scale it on up. Turn this on. Turn this off. Scale it up. Turn this on. Turn this off. Maybe scale a little bit more. Turn this on. Grab this guy. Okay. Yes, there we go. That's looking a little bit better. So now we're going to come in here. Again, I'm going to scale this scale this up. And if I move this to where the straw, the pen becomes the straw. The question is, I can't read who wrote that. The purple is crazy. The question is, what did you do that made you think you'd be banned? Oh yeah, that is a good question. Yeah. How does scale models are painted? Does the size matter in ZBrush if it has to be painted? No. The scale of the model doesn't matter for painting. The vertices do. ZBrush is vertice based, meaning that all of the actual points in itself, all the vertices in themselves is actually what causes the actual painting itself to be captured. So as an example here, if I were to just insert a cube real quick, so we'll just insert a quick cube. We'll zoom in here. We'll grab this. Also, real quick fun fact. If you do work in scale and you realize that your brush might be too small for the scale that you're working with, no worries, actually, because you can turn around and you can adjust that. So I believe, if you go here to draw under preferences, it's set at 1,000, but you can go all the way up to 5,000. So if you wanted to adjust this, you actually could give yourself more room to work with. So you could come up here to preferences, just scale that up. And then from there, when you hit your draw size, you'll actually be able to go higher with it, which is pretty cool. But again, I'm not really doing too many sculpting with that. Also, you could set scene scale, which makes life a lot easier. But nonetheless, so here, we're just going to go ahead and put this in. So I'm going to grab this guy, and let's actually shrink this down. Oh, I was going to show you, sorry, the paint, my brain. So real quick, let's come in here, let's grab this, let's hit F. So if we have this example here where we have some vertices, but it's really lightweight, so if I go to painting, and let's just fill this with white, so let's just color fill, and then let's choose red. So as I start to paint, you can see it's a little bit pixelated. It's only capturing in all of those red spots. If I were to drop my brush size really, really small, and I'm painting right here on this quad, you can absolutely see nothing is happening. But as soon as I go over a vertice, boom, boom, it hits, right? So if I want better resolution, I need to subdivide to get better resolution, and now I can get more paint on that. So everything is resolution based on it, which is within the vertice itself. So all the information that is being captured is via the vertice. This is why scale in ZBrush doesn't matter necessarily. You know, a lot of times, like, this is why the scale question is so huge, because ZBrush's biggest strength is allowing you as the artist to be 100% creative and not bound by real world scale. But we have a system that allows you to quickly turn scale on and work with a more credible, with a more credible numbers than just free flowing it, right? So that's why Scale Master is the way that it is, because at the end of the day, we'll go ahead and delete this guy. We don't need it. Boop. At the end of the day, we want to be able to ensure that you can get your products out and that you can actually make it in real world. But we want to make sure that ultimately everything that is done in a way that is, that is ultimately, in your benefit. So again, ZBrush kind of turned the whole industry on its head with that approach, if that makes any sense to you. So what I realized, I'm going to load that if I come here, where was it? Was it bot brushes? No. Where's my materials? I was working with that material. It was super cool. I meant to save that in there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter right now. Okay. So that being said, here, let's go back here. And what I want to actually end up doing is I want to push this down into the actual area so that it's close enough. Now, we might cheat this a little bit and not have this perfectly center, but we can have it close enough. And we'll do something like that. Right, we'll have something like that. Now what we're going to do here real fast, I'm going to isolate this poly group because this is the poly group that matters the most, not this. This is just your holder shape. This right here is what really matters to me. So I'm going to go ahead and geometry. And what time is it? 2. Okay, we only have a few more minutes. I can't stay until 1 today. There's a lot of prep going on in the background, but we have a few more minutes so we can finish our thought. So here I'm going to go to modify topology and of course delete hidden. And let's grab up our Z modeler. And we're going to now come in here, hover over a face, Q mesh with our poly group all. And we're gonna scale that out just a little bit. We want a nice cut. And let's actually do one more thing, which is real fast. So we're gonna come in here. Nope, not that one. We're gonna come in here and we're going to just expand this. Because what we're gonna do is end up cutting this out of the cup itself. So what do we not need? Well, we don't need the straw anymore. And we really, on the lid, we do need the lid, right? So maybe this will be, nope, don't scale that. Maybe this will be something more like this. So we'll have to cut that all the way through. And we'll come in here, and now we're just gonna hit V real fast. And this is the shape and stuff that we have. What I wanna do as well is I do want to take this guy, and I wanna merge this down. So yep, merge that down like such here. So then I have this guy that's coming through. And we do want to give it some resolution. So we're gonna go dynamic subdiv and say apply. And I'm actually gonna divide a couple times. Yeah, say something like that. There we go. That should be good. And again, I'm gonna go ahead and just delete lower on this. I don't need that. I do want some resolution. And now I'm gonna go ahead and say start here, turn this one on. We're gonna hit cut with live Boolean. And that should separate that out from itself. And let's go ahead and Boolean that folder. You have a question. What is the way to find work at 3D design? Dude, that's a great question. Honestly, it boils down to a lot of little things. The big thing that I think, if I had to give you one big advice, it's networking with as many people as possible. You want to go out and meet new people. So you definitely want to go to trade shows, community events. You want to be where everyone's at, and you want to put your work out constantly. At the end of the day, the two things that everybody wants to know is, you know, can you do the job, and are you somebody that we can come in and work with, right? Everybody wants to, you know, there's so many artists out there, and we want to be able to connect with everybody, but that's always difficult, right? So in any industry that is utilizing 3D, whether it be jewelry, games, film, architecture, automotive, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, whatever you're working on, you want to be able to establish yourself within those communities. So networking with each other, finding new artists, collaboration with artists is really fun. I love doing collaborations all the time. So, it's all about just like putting yourself out there, putting your work out there, and just being able to be flexible and be willing to learn as well is a huge part of it. So again, there's a lot of different industries out there, but ultimately networking is going to save you a lot of time, because once more people start recognizing your work and knowing who you are, then it becomes almost second nature to be like, who'd be perfect for this job? So-and-so, blah, 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 blah. So it's, and I know that sounds, I just make that sound a lot easier than it is, but it's, at the end of the day, if you're constantly going out, shaking people's hands, coming in, meeting people, then you're gonna start making some noise. The louder you are as a person, respectfully, if you're out there putting your work out, you're sharing your stuff constantly, you're opening your portfolio, you're applying all the time, you're going to start making friends, and then those friends will start thinking of you too. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you need friends in order to find yourself in the industry. You could get really, you could find a job, apply for it, and boom, you're in. I had no friends at Funko. I didn't know anybody at Funko when I got hired there back in 2021. But I was able to, I kept putting myself out there. And what I didn't know was that at the time of hire, companies like Funko, they like to gather portfolios. And then if a resume comes in or a CV comes in and it matches some of the stuff that they've been already looking at, it makes it easier to then, for them to be like, oh, this person was cool. And I didn't know that they actually had my portfolio on file, which was fun. And that was because they picked it up through people who had saw that my portfolio was being retweeted. Because companies will do that. They will, that's why Portfolio Day is really big, because you put out there, you get to meet people. If you're into games, there's a lot of game meetups, little communities where people will show up. Like there's one in Burbank that usually happens at like Guildhall, which is a nice little gamer pub. People will show up. A lot of artists will show up there. You get to meet people, hang out, play games, get to know somebody. And then you may not realize that you could be talking to somebody who's like, oh, I need somebody. Let me take a look at your portfolio. It happens all the time, and it's really cool. So networking is a big one, and I definitely highly recommend that. Matthew, what's up, buddy? Hey, no worries, man, no worries. I know the stream's going to get cut short a little bit here today, and I keep ranting and raving. So here, real quick, I'm going to come in, turn this on. So we just made this cut, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, polygroups, auto groups. And, of course, I made the wrong cut. Why did I do that? Okay, so my cut didn't work because I can almost guarantee that the reason why it didn't work is because I failed to do one aspect of it. And that was have the exit for the cut. So what do I mean by that? So the cut stopped somewhere down the middle. And what I wanted to do was actually extend this all the way through. Wow, this is perfect. There it is. Okay, great. So there is that aspect to it, right? So we need to turn that on. There we go. So now I want that to be out there because, again, we just kind of want that spot. And let's do this one more time. That should work now. So let's go ahead and Boolean that folder. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to be at Vegas and NAB next week. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see here. Ian, do you know any plugins for manual retopology in ZBrush? Something based on ZModeler. Actually, it's not a plugin. You can actually retopo in ZBrush pretty easily. There's a couple methods to do it, and I can show you those real quick. Matthew, dude, it's been here the whole time, brother. It's been here the whole time. Never went anywhere. Bam! I love that thing, dude. Thank you so much for that. No, for those who are less able, like myself, to go to physical shows, get your stuff on social medias and actively participate in art circles, make friends online, join Discords, keep visible. Absolutely, 100%. Like, I'm still bugging Ashley, who I've never asked this question before, to do a collaboration with her at some point in time. And I've never asked it. And then one day I will get the courage to do so and ask that question. But in the meantime, you just put yourself out there. What's up? All right, so now I just made this cut here and then come through and then do polygroups and auto groups. And now let's see, did this cut work for me? There it is. Yep, so now I have my cut that goes all the way through. Bada bing, bada boom. There it is. So now I can just come through here. And of course, I can delete hidden, which is key to it. ZWrap is a fantastic plugin. Yes, that's right. Thank you, Anna. I totally forgot about that. ZWrap. Yes, absolutely. I actually just got a license to ZWrap not too long ago. And I just have to learn it. Yeah, ZWrap. Good. Look at that. Anna's always coming in clutch. And let's see, did I do delete hidden? Boom, boom, boom. Wrap 3D is better. I don't know. I haven't used either. I can't speak on that. I think it's preference. I always think it's preference, Like I just started using, like Anna just actually recommended fiber shop to me for hair cards. And then I was telling a buddy of mine, I was like, dude, I just found this awesome program. He's like, I don't like it. And I'm like, okay, I love it though. I'm like, I can do hair cards in no time flat. That's awesome. I think it's all preference at the end of the day. Okay, so now we have the coffee cup, right? We need to get the belt bags in here. Boom, 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 boom. So let's turn all this stuff on. Let's just turn everything on. Let's get everything turned on here the way we need it to be. Right, let's turn off. We need to now take belt bags. So I need this guy, and this guy. No. What are you doing, Ian? What are we doing? I don't know. It's a good question. Let's grab this stuff. There we go. Okay. Great. Let's finish what we started, and then we'll be able to take off. So we're gonna wrap this around. Yeah, I use ZWrap. It helps a lot. Nice. Yeah, ZWrap is a good one, but still not helping manual retopo. Yeah, so here I'll show you some retopo stuff you could do. Like it's not super crazy. It's all in what's. We actually have a couple Ask ZBrush videos for it too. I can point you into that direction as well. Okay, so we're gonna have to be able to make some manual adjustments to these bags and stuff. Like, so we'll finesse this. Not everything works in every pose, so you'll have to change some stuff. But for right now, for the sake of sakes, we can just come in and get this close enough, and then we'll refine the process a bit later. So let's just get this turned on here, and then let's just turn on the boots, turn that off rather, and then let's turn the cup back on. Okay, perfect. So now let's do this. Let's come up here to save as, and we're gonna make this number 3 because I don't want to lose anything. So let's do that. And then let's talk about manual retopo real quick. And that's how we'll end today's stream. So we'll have our little guy sitting up here looking all sorts of cute and adorable. Right, and let's, there we go. And actually real fast, just because I'm curious. Turn that off, put that over there. Turn that. I don't know why that got pushed off like that, but it did. Okay. That's fine. Let's do this. Let's do... Oh, you know why? Okay, I know why it got pushed like that. So we want the thickness to be a little bit more. So because I adjusted the scale of my model, the thickness actually also got adjusted. So we want to push that back in. Okay. And that's why this also looks a little funky. So let's do that. Let's do that, and then we'll push it in just a little bit. Okay, close enough. All right, so now that we got this guy looking pretty cute. I think he's all right here. Let's turn the color back on, and let's go ahead and stamp this for today, and then let's do, of course, the, there we go. Yeah, he's so cute. Love it. We don't need live boolean anymore, so let's turn that off. Okay, so we got this. Let's stamp this up, say right there, and let's talk about manual retopology for a second. So I'm gonna go back to the blockout version of him, and let's go to 5. And you can see there's a night and day difference. Okay, so retopology, manual retopology in ZBrush. So there's no real like crazy plugin for it. It's pretty straightforward. I actually like doing manual retopology in ZBrush because it's simple. I don't have a lot of crazy tool features, but there are a couple of approaches we can take. The first one is through ZModeler. And if we wanted to retopo his head, so I'm just gonna go ahead real fast and I'm gonna go ahead and let's turn everything off. And I'm just gonna go ahead and just merge just want to merge visible. I just want to put this on its own head for a second. There we go. Let's just get rid of that. I'm just separating the head just for me so I don't get too crazy with this. Delete hidden. So the first way to do retopology is actually really simple. It's actually with Z-sphere, right? So that's the first thing we can do. We can come in here, insert a Z-sphere, and we can take this shape. We can turn on symmetry, move this up into the head. I like to make this really small. So if I were to just come through here, scale this down, and then move that, I like to put that somewhere here. Boom, just say something like that. Okay, and then with the Z-sphere selected, what we need to now do is come down to our topology, and we need to start editing our topology. Now at this point, we want to focus on draw, and move, scale, all that stuff is going to let us do it. So draw simply works. I click a point, I click a second point, I get an arrow. That arrow is telling me what direction I should go. So if I click down here, sorry, come through here. Start over. Click that spot one more time. One more time. So I'm going to click here and click here. Now I can go this way or I can just go straight down. And again, I'm just connecting these. Now I have my quad, right? And here, like I said, the arrow itself was telling me where to go. So if I click off in space anywhere, I get to start a new dot. So if I click here, now I can come through and start clicking like this. And I can come in here and start clicking these shapes. And I can just keep doing this all the way through, right? And then if I want to check this, I'll just tap here in space. If I want to check what's going on, then that's okay. I'll just go ahead and hit A, and you'll see here that I get a really nasty piece of geometry. Why is that? Well, that's because A is adaptive skin. It's telling me, showing me the preview. So I need to go to adaptive skin, drop this down to density 1 with Dynamesh at 0, turn it off and on again, and now you can see I have my quads. Then I go back into my topology here, and I just keep going. So I come in and I tap a spot here, and I just go, you know what, I want to come in here and hit these points. I moved around, no big deal. I can go to move. I can move my points however I need to. Go back to draw, and again, I can just start clicking this in. Boom, boom, boom. Right? So this is the way in which I can start doing stuff. Don't make triangles like me. Don't be like me. So this is how you would end up doing that. This is the first way of retopologizing. Then when you hit A and let's say we're done with it and we're super happy, then what we can do is say make adaptive skin. And now I have this skin here. The cool part about it is if you never get rid of the Z-sphere, you can hide the Z-sphere, right? Come over here, copy this mesh, and bring it back in. Just paste it back in. And there it is. And then you can do all your project details and stuff because this is nice, clean topology. Okay? So this is absolutely the way that you can go about doing it. That's way number 1. Way number 2 is actually through, and let's assume I didn't have, I don't have subdivisions. So way number 2 is actually with ZModeler. So, and this actually has some really cool benefits and tricks to it. First thing, I hit B for brush, and then I'm going to hit P for, sorry, not P. I'm going to hit B for brush, I for insert, and H. So B, I, H. And the reason why is that is IMM primitives half. So we have an IMM primitives brush, which are whole ones, and then we have ones that have half. The difference is on the half one, we have a single poly. And that single poly is perfect. That's what we would like to have. So I can come through here, have my symmetry turned on, and let's say I would just want to start right here. Boop, that's fine. Got that quad right there, okay? So now that I have my quad here, let's go ahead and let's go to, we're going to go to split, and we're going to split on masked points. We're going to turn solo off for a second, and now we have this. Now what we can do is we can either make the ZModeler brush work for us, or we can go up to brush in the lightbox menu, go up to ZModeler, and they already built a ZModeler topology brush. And what makes this version so special and why it is the way it is, why are you the way that you are? We're going to go ahead and select our quads here, hover over an edge. So our edge is set to extrude, which is perfect, and also has a snap to surface. Our actual quad has set do nothing because we don't want to touch the quads on anything and have it do stuff. Or if we go to the actual points, you can see that we have move and snap to surface. Now what's fun is I can just go ahead here and I can start dragging this out. And you could see that it's starting to snap to that surface. If I turn on my transpose right here and kind of ghost it, I can start seeing a little bit more of what's happening here. So now this will all snap to the surface. And what's fun is if I come over here and I start dragging this out and I press Alt, I can actually get these things right here to do boom, boom, meaning like it'll, words, Ian. It'll actually, as I drag this out, it'll bring out that whole row. I can even get really crazy if I'd like, because we're gonna go nuts here. Let's say I wanted to come here, extrude this out. So if I wanted to extrude this, let's just go back to single for a second. We can actually say number of rows that we'd want to do. So right now it's set to single row, but if I come over here, number of rows, I could say, you know what, number of rows, let's do 6, because we're feeling wild. And I can draw 6 of these things out. I can just start moving this in. Move this here, move this here. And I can just start moving these points in pretty quickly. As an example. So you can start dragging this stuff out pretty quickly. So you could say, you know, at this point here, let these points snap to each other, let these points snap to each other, etc., etc. Come on, click, click, click. That's fine. Click that one. Click that one. So you get the idea. And then we can just start, again, we could just start coming through here, go back to single row if we wanted to. So, and you could just start clicking this stuff in pretty quickly. And if I just tap the edges, it'll extrude the same amount every time. So it's all about just getting something pretty quickly. Manual retopology, you know, this is about the approach that we have on it currently. But again, just come in and start snapping points together, etc., etc. And because I did it all poorly, I have a triangle there, but don't worry about that triangle. Don't worry about that little guy. So yeah. And this matches to the actual shape of it. So I don't have to worry about it. What you could also do as well, if you want, is you can actually go up to geometry. You can go up to dynamic subdiv and just turn on thickness. And you can get thickness a little bit. So then you can see exactly where everything is as well. So those are the ways to approach manual retopology in ZBrush. So it's a little bit more of a simpler approach, but I appreciate that because when I sit down and actually manual retopology, I take my time and I just kind of like focus on the things that I want to focus on. Yes, you can delete an edge loop. Absolutely. Yeah, if I come over here, just hover over an edge, just like you can with normal Z modeler, just go to insert, and you can just delete that edge loop. Absolutely. Just hold Alt and delete. You can even add edge loops, same difference. You can come over here and you can say, you know, I need to add an edge loop. And I need to add an edge loop there. And there and there. Boom. Absolutely. 100%. So it's a balance, yeah. Yep, not a problem, not a problem. Okay, with that, unfortunately, I have to cut this one short today because there's just a lot of stuff I need to end up doing, but hopefully that helped out with answering a lot of those questions. Thank you all for being here. This is super exciting, of course, for me to come in and actually showcase a lot of fun stuff. So again, here is where we are with our little Deadpool pose. He's gonna need to be cleaned up and stuff, but this one will be for 3D printing. And again, I want my pen to be held in there. So this will be a nice, fun, like desk item and stuff. What we'll need to do is really ensure weight distribution. And this actually might be something to really think about where, you know, now I need to understand how heavy it is. His head is actually going to offset this thing, and the biggest concern is it right now and just falling over. Like, that's the biggest concern, but we can make that work no problem. Like, I don't see that being a super big deal. Maybe what I do is I actually, like, you know, cut the bottom open and just print that separate, that keys into one of these seams, and I print that solid and then print the rest of it hollow. And then that could actually be a way that it like becomes very bottom heavy and offsets the weight. So that's one idea that might work out well. But here he is in all of his little glory, looking pretty cool. I love this character so much, very near and dear to me. So let's go ahead and just hit save, and let's do that. Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, A-Cube and Anna. Thank you guys for popping in and saying hi. Everybody, Carbon444, Nicholas, Jaime, Gus, Leonard, Imperial Fist. Everybody, you guys are awesome. So thank you guys so much. Matthew, there's so many people. Confusion, thank you for being here. Super appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Anyway, like I said, I won't be here next week. I'll be at NAB. So if you're in Las Vegas, come by to the Maxon booth, say hi. We'd love to see you guys there. And we'll talk to you next time. All right, everyone. Take care. Bye, 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 bye. Oh, that's my face.